Hi, I'm Denise. I'm the founder and therapist of Infinite Hope Counselling. I wanted to come on today to do a video around being an emotional orphan. Now, many of you who access therapy with me or read my content will know this is something I've referenced a few times, but have never really gone into detail about what being an emotional orphan is, how to know if you might be an emotional orphan, what the impact it can have of being an emotional orphan, and how to recover from it. So I'm going to do a series of vlogs around common themes that come up in the therapy space. These might not be things that are necessarily medically diagnosable through a GP or a psychiatrist, but I feel they're things that are common and therefore might affect some of you, so it might be helpful to explore. Now, on my last service update, I did say that I was going to do this as a blog, but try as I might, I found it really hard to capture in black and white what I want to say around this. So I thought I'd do a video. And as much as I find it hard to watch these back, I have good feedback from you guys about the fact you like to see them as videos. So here we go. So what is an emotional orphan? Well, we traditionally think of an orphan as someone who has lost a parent through death. And that can be one parent or both parents or a caregiver or someone who represents a parental figure that cares mainly for a child. And even though as an orphan we can technically think that you'll be a child when you lose a parent, you can feel this way whether you're 5, 15, 25, 50, 100. There's no age limit to it. So the emotional part is really important. So I want to just talk about what I consider an emotional orphan and what's the difference between that and an estrangement, because it's quite important. I think an emotional orphan is someone who can potentially have a good relationship with their parents. They might not, but have this real fracture when it comes to getting their emotional needs met or being seen with the emotional landscape they need. So I was trying to think about how to give some examples. So a couple of common themes are that you might have parents that can meet financial and physical needs. They might show up to all your performances at school, your parents' evenings. They might encourage you in your job. They might help you financially. But the conversation's very surface level. They don't see you for who you are. You might have mental health problems and they will not acknowledge them, or they'll say things like mental health issues don't exist. You could have had to grow up really fast because actually there was no emotional support. We're navigating things like first relationships, bullying at school, friendships, and, you know, really importantly, they might not agree with your choices, so they just don't talk about them. So I have clients who whose parents will not support or talk about their sexual preferences, their partners, their religious predilections, anything like that. So I think it's really important to think about deficit, and that's how I see it. It's an emotional deficit of something that wasn't provided by your parents or your parental figures. And I think sometimes it's important to give examples of this. And I don't know if this is helpful or not, but I certainly would include myself in the emotional orphan category. I don't think this is about parent blaming or shaming. There are some horrendous parents out there, as we see on cases on the news of horrendous abuse, physically, mental and emotional, and you know, sexual as well. But there are also parents who do the best with what they've got, who never were given those skills, who never had an emotional landscape with their own parents and have gone through life closed off emotionally. So it's not to say that these parents are bad parents, it's that they can't give what's needed. Also, they can be bad parents and it can be fractured, so it's a bit mixed. So an example I had, for example, is when I was having friendship problems at school. I wasn't popular and I wasn't unpopular. I kind of had my own group, Waifs and Strays, and I never really felt like I fitted in anywhere. And I sort of would get really upset about being left out, and I would people please and try and fit in. And I tried to have a conversation about it, and it was like, "Well, you're doing all right at school." And that was it. So it's that kind of abandonment feeling. And that's a minor example, but this continued. It's been a theme in my life, as I'm sure it has for many of you. So what's the difference between this and estrangement? Well, estrangement is the physical removal of a family member, a parent figure, a caregiver. And just to give you some stats around this, I was quite shocked. Standalone.org did a survey in 2018. And of the people they surveyed, 1 in 5 had a family member that was either estranged or they were estranged themselves. And this is something they estimate that by 2025 will be a problem for around 19 million people, that they will have either an estrangement of one or more family members. Now, that's not just in the UK, that's in Europe, but it's quite interesting that it affects 1 in 5 families. So it shows that the family dynamic is really difficult. And just because you're born into something, it doesn't mean that these are the people you would naturally choose or warm to or connect with. But with estrangement, normally there's a choice being made. That's a choice by them or by you to have this separation. And I find that sometimes estrangement is vital for recovery, especially on emotional well-being. If there's been abuse, it can be absolutely life-saving. And it's hard because we live in a society that says, oh, but you only get one mum, and oh, but that's your mum or dad. And actually, no, not everybody grows up in a family that's secure and healthy and happy. And if you're watching this video and you're like, oh, my parents were the best, and this is definitely not me, then I'm really pleased, because there are good parents and children that have an amazing bond with them, who grow up in a happy, healthy relationship with their parents, which continues throughout their life. This video isn't really aimed at you, it's aimed at the people that can't connect with their parents, that hide huge parts of their life or feel like they can't be themselves. So why is it important to talk about this? Well, in my experience, emotional orphans have an impact to their self-esteem, what they think they're worth, what they take in relationships, how they present to the rest of the world. It impacts every area of your life. And I'm not going to go into attachment theory on this video because we'd be here all day, but I will perhaps do another video on attachment theory. But we do know as a society that attachments to your parental figures and how you attach will impact who you are and how you go about your life. And it's hard when you could have had perhaps a secure attachment as a little child, but as soon as your emotions develop and you need support and help, you don't get that with your parents. And that can lead to so much issues with anxiety, self-esteem. I also think low self-worth is really important to talk about, because in my experience, emotional orphans will be the partner in the relationship that's either really demanding and really forceful because they don't know how to get their needs met. They might be anxiously attached, so they'll put tests in place to see if they can get their needs met, or they'll just put up with anything because they're trying to get their emotional needs met. So it really changes the landscape of relationships. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, friendships, even colleagues, even the work that we do. So it's important to acknowledge this. Now, I'd love to be able to say that the way to fix this is you have one conversation with your parents and then they say, oh, that's right, we've got it wrong and we can't help it because of this. And that may be the case for your family if you have that kind of emotional dialogue with your parents. But if you have an emotional dialogue with your parents, I'm not sure you'll fit in this category. Whereas actually therapy and support can really help to unpick whether you're an emotional orphan and to see what feelings that's left you with and help build and rebuild the deficit that's within you. Because sometimes when we're not heard emotionally, we feel less than, we feel too much, we feel othered, we feel dramatic. We'll say, oh, well, it sounds silly because there's people that are far worse off for me, or oh, I shouldn't complain, or all I've done today is moan and I don't deserve that. Or they get treated badly and think that's what they do deserve because of it. So being an emotional orphan doesn't mean you have to stop having a relationship with your parents or you can't have good connections, but you do need to help heal that part of you that hasn't had what it needed. And so that you can continue to have a good relationship with your parents or rebuild a relationship with your parents if you want that. Sometimes, and it's very rare, but being an emotional orphan and recognising that and working through those emotional deficits can lead to estrangement because that's what's best for the person. But that's for you to decide. And no therapist is going to say you have to not see your parents again, and if they do, run for the hills and phone the BACP, because actually that's not what we're here to do. But I think this is really important to talk about, and this is just tipping the surface of it really, because I could talk about this all day. But I hope this video has given you some idea of what an emotional orphan is, how you can be impacted on it, and why it's important to seek help and support. If you have any questions or you want to chat about this, please get in touch. I know this video is very long, but these are going to be on my YouTube channel for you to go back and reference. If you have any doubts or worries, you can seek support from a therapist, or you can talk to your friends. This is far more common than you think, and it'll start by conversations like, I don't feel like my parents recognise me. They don't see the effort I put in my job. They don't understand who I am as a mum. They talk about how their other friends and family have had grandchildren. I haven't given them that. They don't understand me. They say I don't fit in. I'm so different to everyone. And I could go on. But these conversations are how we begin to heal. If we can talk about it and name it and recognise as an issue, we can then rebuild. Well, I hope this has been helpful, and I hope to see you again soon, and watch out for the updates on the videos. See you soon. Bye.